Within a couple of days we received two firmware updates for the LG CX. The first one was 044135, and yesterday when I turned on the LG CX in the morning, I received 044140. So this is, in my opinion, a little bit concerning. Not a big deal, but a little bit concerning, because usually we don't have firmware updates in this short period. So I'm almost sure that something went wrong with the former firmware, with .35. But I have to say that I did not experience any unusual behavior when I updated my CX back then. What I experienced, on the other hand, when I updated this CX to the .40 firmware, was a little bit unusual. Okay, so I would say we're starting straight with measurements, peak brightness in Dolby Vision and HDR10, HDRG enabled. And by the way, if you'd like to know what the game was, what I was displaying in the intro, this was Metro Exodus. This right now is Cyberpunk, because this is the game what I'm usually using when I'm doing my maximum peak brightness measurements on all my TVs, because I know what I can expect. Okay, so that's very important. So, and what I'm doing usually is measuring this light, and I'm measuring this light here because it's also very, very bright. So after I updated to .40, I went straight into the game and measured, and it happened to be that Dolby Vision was enabled, and I started with Dolby Vision, and I came up with a maximum peak brightness of around 630 nits, which is, I was expecting a little bit more, because in my previous video or with the previous firmware I had, with the .35, I had roughly around, I think, 640 something, 650. So it's just 20 nits, it's not a big deal, but I was thinking that's a little bit interesting, a little bit weird, but anyway, just continue. And I measured HDRG, HDR10, and I came around, or the measurement maximum peak brightness here on this very same object was around 660 nits, which is what I was expecting. And then I went back to Dolby Vision, because I was not convinced, because usually when you change the in-game settings in the game, or let me start again, Dolby Vision with the same in-game settings in a game is always slightly darker than HDR10 with HDRG. That's how the tone mapping works in Dolby Vision. Okay, let's say like this. So I know you have to increase it slightly to get the same maximum peak brightness out of your TV. Okay, measured with the with my colorimeter here. Okay, so I increased, of course, the in-game brightness here from, or in Cyberpunk, just to 1500. Okay, just to make sure it's trying to output the maximum peak brightness, and I was not able to get even close to 650 candela as the last time. So I was a little bit confused, and I thought, okay, it's not a big deal, just 20 nits, and maybe it's because it's a little bit cooler in the room, or maybe it's too warm in the room and stuff like that. Okay, so I made sure also that my colorimeter is always set up to the exact same spot. Okay, so I'm using a what's the name? Anyway, I'm using the exact same spot all the time to make sure it is measuring or reading all the time the same values. Okay, so that's very important. So, and that's why when I was a little bit confused, so what I have done then to just verify something was a factory reset. Okay, and after the factory reset, and I like to make this very clear, this is probably just a coincidence. Probably just a coincidence, okay? But after the factory reset, I went straight into the game without setting up anything on the TV. Of course, I changed to the game mode settings and stuff like that. Okay, so I changed to the right picture mode, because out of the box, the factory settings are not quite okay in the game mode. Okay, let's say like this. Okay, because you should use warm 2 in the game mode as well, and it's set, I think, to medium in the standard factory setting. Yeah, correct. So anyway, I went straight into the game, Dolby Vision, and on this very same object now, I measured 660 nits, which is now 30 nits more than before. And I couldn't explain this, so I turned off my Xbox, turned off the CX. I tried actually to get 630 nits again, but I was not able to. It was always around 660 nits. And then I changed to HDR10, HDRG, and I had, instead of 660 nits, I had 680 nits. So just for your information, there is no color or no calibration on this TV right now, other than a calibration in the service menu. Okay, so what I've done is I 2-point calibration to the service menu, and this value doesn't get deleted when you do a factory reset. Okay, I verified this many times. Okay, so there is nothing set in the normal picture menu what can change this behavior, in my opinion. But maybe I'm wrong, and again, maybe that's just a very big coincidence. But what I like to say is here, and then we finishing maximum peak brightness for this update. If you experiencing any issues after an update, then give it a try with a factory reset. I know it's a pain in the ass because you have to set up all the apps again, the logins and stuff like that. Wi-Fi is gone and stuff. It's a pain in the ass. But give it a try, because maybe it resolves a couple of issues for you. Okay, and if you have done now a factory reset, or you like to do a factory reset, then just listen to this, because this is actually very important. Because out of the box, the CX has a couple of settings set by default which I don't like at all, which are actually not very nice in terms of picture quality, picture settings. Okay, so make sure, of course, you are in the game mode again. Okay, make sure your energy saving is actually turned off, because in the, if I'm not wrong, in the SDR game mode, that's Dolby Vision right now, it is set to auto. Okay, which means it will dim your picture. Okay, you don't want this. Okay, so make sure this is done. Go to OLED screensaver and no, not here, sorry, but I always turn off screen shift. I don't like it. And I also turn off logo luminance adjustment. Okay, I don't like those features. I don't have any problems with burn-in so far. Okay, just for your information. Also what we have, and I hope I find everything here, AI service. This AI brightness control is enabled by default for SDR, and I think for HDR content, but maybe I'm wrong, but for sure for SDR as well, which also affects the maximum peak brightness of your TV. You don't want this. Okay, and then last but not least, I think it was it here, additional settings? No, sorry, just give me a second. Here, general and additional settings. So if you're experiencing any issues after an update or whatsoever, quick start is enabled by default after a factory reset. And quick start means it's like quick start on the PC. It doesn't shut down the computer completely, which is great, because yeah, if you like to start up early, okay, you turn on your TV and it's much faster, but it can cause issues with apps because they're not getting closed and stuff like that. Okay, so give it a try, turn this off, and yeah, just put in the comment section if you're experiencing any other issues. And by the way, where is our new feature? Because we have now, of course, and I just like to talk about this very briefly or very quick, our new home screen style. If you haven't experienced this before, or you don't know what this is actually, and I'm not going into details, and by the way, I'm not connected to the internet right now after the factory reset, but this is also set to new by default after a factory reset, even after the firmware update. Okay, if you like to use the old one, then just jump into general, go into home settings and change it back to home screen basic, and you have the old user interface. And by the way, I found this is the best feature on the new user interface to turn it actually off. Okay, so let's talk quickly about apps like Netflix, Amazon Prime, Stan, something like what I'm using here in Australia. I haven't experienced any issues at all since I'm testing the new firmware. Okay, let's say like this. Also, I did not experience any issue with Dolby Vision in combination with 120 Hertz. And if you remember, I had the issue that many months ago, okay, when I tried Dolby Vision with 120 Hertz, one single HDMI input on my CX after a firmware update was not working anymore when I changed to 120 Hertz in combination with Dolby Vision. It just didn't work. It just tried to output something, but I think the picture just went black. Okay, after factory reset, this was completely resolved. So keep this in mind as well. I checked after the .40 firmware all my HDMI inputs just quickly, and they have no problems right now with Dolby Vision and 120 Hz. And the last thing, or almost the last thing, is audio return channel. And this is always very, very hard to test because I just have one AV receiver. But I just quickly connected my CX to my AV receiver. It's a Pioneer whatever, 900 something, and without any problems. And I never had any problems with my combination. But this is very important. We have millions of different combinations out there in terms of sound bars, receivers, whatever you're using. Okay, so it's very, very hard to say there's no problem, because I'm very sure that some of you having issues with the audio return channel. And last but not least, picture quality in general after the latest update. Okay, and I would love to show you actually something from Netflix in terms of picture quality, because I'm still absolutely impressed actually when I'm using this TV in comparison with my S95C here on my left side. It is stunning. I mean, the picture quality is really, really great, and you must watch, or let's say like this, you can see a big difference, of course, between those two TVs if you watch the right content. With games like this where you can set up the maximum peak brightness, it's quite obvious that the S95C is, I wouldn't say destroying the CX, but there's a large difference. Okay, so and the same counts for some content on Netflix, Amazon Prime. Some, because not all the content is actually mastered with a higher maximum peak brightness where you can have an advantage from the S95C over the CX. So most of the content is quite similar, and I'm still very, very impressed because the internal apps in terms of quality, like noise or bending and stuff like that, really, really good compared to the S95C. Of course, S95C, there's a reason why this is my main TV right now. The CX is not on the same level anymore, full stop, that's how it is. But for I think 4-year-old TV, the picture quality is still outstanding.